Look at you now, the one who finally stopped wrestling with the shadow and learned how to soar beside it. This is a greeting to those who reached the moment of realization, the moment where resistance ended and integration began. To the beautiful contradictions who stared straight into their own darkness and didn't flinch, who recognized it not as a threat, but as fuel. Something shifted inside you, didn't it? A quiet but irreversible change. And the ones watching from the outside never saw it coming. They were certain. They were clever. Certain they could engineer your collapse by reflecting you back at yourself in the most distorted way possible. They tried to give life to a version of you meant to tear you apart from the inside. Your opposite, your shadow frequency, the mirror they believed would break you. They fed that image with jealousy, shaped it with fear, animated it with their projections. Their goal was simple: make you confront yourself and fall apart in the process. Land. But there was one detail they failed to account for, one variable that shattered their entire design. You didn't fight what emerged. You didn't flee from it. You didn't pray for it to disappear or try to destroy it. Instead, you did the unthinkable. You met it with curiosity, with calm, with recognition. You looked at the part of yourself you were supposed to fear. The rage, the sharp edges, the unapologetic strength, and instead of rejecting it, you acknowledged it. You reached out and chose collaboration over conflict. And in that precise moment, everything they planned collapsed. Their entire strategy. It relied on you hating parts of yourself, denying your own power, shrinking back into something manageable and compliant. They expected you to recoil when faced with your intensity. They thought you'd fracture under the weight of your own truth. Melinda. What they actually did was deliver the missing component of your strength straight into your hands. They summoned the version of you that doesn't hesitate, doesn't seek approval, doesn't negotiate with disrespect. The part of you that can survive alone, think clearly under pressure, and walk away without permission. And instead of rejecting that part, you integrated it. Instead of splintering, you fused. That fusion created something they cannot counter: wholeness, not fragile balance, but weaponized completeness. The kind of selfhood that doesn't apologize for its depth, or darkness because it knows exactly how to use it. You are no longer divided. You are multiplied. Light and shadow working in precision, not opposition. They wanted internal war. You formed an alliance. They hoped for self-destruction. You achieved mastery. Now here's what's unfolding in real time. Everywhere you move, there's disruption, an unspoken tension, a fracture in systems that once ran smoothly against you, with layered power now. The version of you that fits into daylight handles visibility, diplomacy, and surface-level interactions. Meanwhile, the version they feared works behind the scenes, calculating, discerning, decisive, making moves without hesitation, executing choices the former version of you would have delayed out of politeness. You're no longer traceable because you exist on more than one level at once. You are grace in public and gravity in private, calm on the surface, lethal in strategy. They sense the shift but can't prove it, and that so-called evil twin they warned you about, it was never evil. It was simply the part of you that refuses to be exploited, the part that recognizes manipulation instantly and cuts it off without ceremony, the part that doesn't waste energy explaining boundaries to people who never respected them. Now that this part walks beside you instead of against you, you've become unreachable. Guilt no longer works because survival doesn't apologize. Shame no longer sticks because you turned it into armor. Because you see the pattern before the trap is set. And sometimes you flip the entire board just to remind them you can. What truly unsettles them is this: you are no longer conflicted, you're not fragmented. You didn't become the internal chaos they predicted. You became integrated, unified, one consciousness with multiple modes. And that alignment radiates something powerful. People feel it when you enter a space, not because you're pretending to be fearless, but because you're no longer hiding anything. Your darkness doesn't repel, it attracts because it's owned, understood, and disciplined. There's no performance anymore, no shrinking, no apologizing for traits that only make insecure people uncomfortable. You learned what they never wanted you to learn. That darkness is not a defect, it's a function. Precision isn't cruelty, it's clarity. Walking away without explanation isn't coldness, it's self-respect perfected. Now you move through the world like someone who has made peace with every version of themselves. Someone who doesn't seek validation because alignment has replaced approval as your compass. They tried to divide you, to control you. Instead, they doubled your strength. They tried to fracture your identity. Instead, they amplified your presence. You don't just enter rooms now. You change the pressure the moment you arrive. And somewhere behind closed doors, the ones who thought they were orchestrating your downfall are panicking. Because the plan backfired. They aimed a curse and delivered a blessing. They tried to split you and made you whole. Blends. They thought they were turning your shadow into a weapon against you. But what they really did was unlock a door you didn't even know you were allowed to open. They overlooked a fundamental truth. Shadow doesn't extinguish light. It sharpens it. Darkness doesn't weaken power. It condenses it, gives it weight and direction. That version of you they tried to demonize was never meant to be your downfall. It was your counterpart, your equal, a dormant force waiting for recognition, not rejection. And the moment you stopped treating it like a threat and started treating it like an ally, quit blends. Now that you're operating as a complete system, no longer fragmenting yourself to be palatable, no longer leading with only the traits others found acceptable. You've stepped into a level of effectiveness that exposes their illusions for what they are. Their polished masks look flimsy up close. Their strategies feel outdated. They watch you move through environments with unsettling precision, making decisions that seem almost surgical in their timing. You sever connections without drama. You form alliances without emotional dependency. You build structures on principles they can't decipher because you're no longer playing a game they understand. You rewrote the rules alongside the very part of yourself they hoped would scare you into submission. And every move you make now is proof that power doesn't require apology. Blend that integration taught you something vital. Mercy is intentional, not automatic. Ruthlessness, when applied with awareness, is not cruelty, it's efficiency. You learned that not every bridge deserves preservation, especially when it only leads back to exhaustion, obligation, or self-betrayal. This isn't theory or symbolism. This is lived, operational reality. The version of you designed for public spaces handles connection, communication, and social navigation. Meanwhile, your shadow self enforces boundaries, initiates exits, and executes decisions others hesitate to make. One builds rapport. The other audits it for truth and quietly removes what's false. One maintains diplomacy. The other ensures consequences. And the elegance of it all is that no one can tell which aspect they're encountering at any given moment. You've become fluid, seamless in your shifts. There's no warning, no visible switch. One moment you're open, warm, and relatable. The next, something changes in your gaze, And suddenly they're facing the part of you that remembers patterns, doesn't bargain with disrespect, and refuses to be maneuvered. They can't manipulate what they can't read. They can't control what they can't predict. And they can't dismantle what they can't divide. You've become a unified field, light and shadow moving together in precise rhythm. Even those who oppose you feel it. Even they can't look away. But here's where the transformation goes deeper. This integrated self isn't just keeping you alive. It's expanding your territory. It gives you permission to exit conversations mid-performance, to disappear without explanation, to choose yourself so decisively that it unsettles those who benefited from your hesitation. It reminds you that loyalty without reciprocity isn't noble. It's self-neglect. That forgiveness offered to those who refuse accountability isn't healing. It's reinforcement. That sometimes the most evolved choice you can make is becoming completely inaccessible. To people who only valued you when you were available on demand. No. And because you've stopped fighting this part of yourself and started listening to it, your actions are no longer driven by resentment or retaliation. There's no emotional turbulence behind your choices, no guilt slowing your follow-through, just clean judgment, calm execution, energy allocation. You now know exactly who belongs in your life and who needs to be permanently archived. No drama, no resurrection. Not because you're cold, but because you're clear. That other side of you sees with brutal accuracy. It observes people as they are, not as you once hoped they might become. It reads situations for their real mechanics, not the idealized stories you used to overlay on top of them. And now that you move with that clarity, instead of resisting it, your decisions appear almost supernatural to those watching from the outside. They can't track the shift. One day you were open, reachable, decipherable. The next, you became something else entirely. Sealed, grounded, unreadable. They study you now like an anomaly, trying to understand how someone goes from exposed to insulated, from dependent to self-anchored, from easy to predict to impossible to decode. Lanes. The answer sits quietly beside you, amused by their confusion. That so-called twin is not a threat. It is of you they attempted to erase and accidentally brought to life. It is the force that emerged from every betrayal, every abandonment, every moment your kindness was mistaken for weakness. Every time you followed their rules and paid the price anyway, something hardened, not into bitterness, but into understanding. That understanding condensed over time into a silent intelligence that now runs beneath your awareness. It monitors patterns, anticipates it protects what is still tender in you by ensuring only what is worthy ever gets close enough to touch it. Bullied. Once you stopped resisting this internal guardian and started working with it, something remarkable happened. The tactics that once controlled you simply stopped functioning. Guilt no longer hooks you. Distortion no longer confuses you. Performative affection no longer dazzles you. That part of you has already seen behind the curtain. It recognizes rehearsed apologies, manufactured intimacy, and empty gestures instantly. There is nothing left to manipulate because there is nothing left that needs rescuing from the outside. What truly unsettles them is not your strength. It's your peace. You are happy now in a way that doesn't require permission, validation, or participation from anyone else. The alliance you formed within yourself is so stable that external approval has become optional, almost ornamental. You consult yourself fully now. One part of you imagines possibility. The other interrogates it for weakness. One suggests openness. The other quietly verifies trustworthiness. You no longer outsource discernment. You no longer outsource reassurance. You have become your own counsel, your own anchor, your own source of certainty. you know. And that independence is deeply threatening to those who were accustomed to being your emotional supply line. They remember when your joy fluctuated based on their attention, their availability, their opinion. But now you move through the world, powered from within, glowing with a self-sustaining current they can neither access nor disrupt. There is no switch they can flip, no lever they can pull. You've learned the most destabilizing truth of all, that you are not incomplete on your own. That connection is chosen, not required. That companionship is enrichment, not survival. And once that truth settled fully into your nervous system, you became untouchable. Not isolated, but autonomous. Not closed, but whole. Not hardened, but sovereign. Dance. Not because you turned against people, but because you finally stopped needing them to feel whole. From where they stand now, the picture is unsettling. They are watching someone who was meant to be undone by their own shadow, instead take control of it with precision, steering it through every obstacle like a skilled pilot navigating hostile airspace. They expected collapse. What they are witnessing instead is consolidation, a mind and spirit that refused to splinter and instead fused into something far more formidable than any fragmented version could ever be. The very force they tried to use as psychological sabotage has rebounded, transformed into an instrument of construction. What was meant to be a curse has become infrastructure. What was meant to end you has become the foundation of something they cannot rival. Bleed, that so-called twin, was never a liability. It was leverage, a hidden advantage they placed directly into your hands without realizing it. And every day you choose integration over inner conflict, you send a message they can't ignore. Gratitude, not the soft kind, but the sharp, ironic kind. Gratitude for the pressure that revealed what was missing. Gratitude for the attack that completed the system. Their attempt to break you turned into the final upgrade. They wanted collapse and got evolution. They wanted chaos and got coherence. They wanted you lost and instead gave you navigation tools they don't possess. That reversal is what stings the most. Now the transformation moves beyond awareness and into execution. This is the stage where understanding becomes action and alignment becomes authority. You and that once feared part of yourself are no longer merely coexisting. You are coordinating. Decisions are being made that the old version of you would have hesitated over. But Stufens, one aspect of you handles endings without sentimentality. You no longer pour energy into one-sided dynamics. You no longer respond to people who only appear when they want something. You no longer carry emotional labor for those who never asked how you were surviving. You learned that energy is currency, and you had been spending it on empty accounts. That attention is investment, and you had been funding ventures with no return. That your presence is valuable, and you had been offering it to people who never opened the door. So now you move differently. Of course they've noticed. Of course they're labeling you now. Cold, changed, distant. And that integrated part of you understands exactly what that means. Cold is what they call someone who stopped allowing themselves to be burned. Changed is what they call growth that no longer serves them. Different is what they call you when you stop playing the role they assigned and step into the one you were always meant to embody. Those labels don't sting anymore because you understand the pattern. Those who benefited from your weakness will always be unsettled by your strength. Those who thrived on your uncertainty will always resent your clarity. Those who needed you small will always feel threatened by your expansion. Well, man, what truly fractures their perception is this: you're not just enduring, you're winning. not barely surviving, not quietly coping, thriving, advancing, reaching levels they insisted were impossible for someone like you. And you didn't achieve it by suppressing your darker instincts. You achieved it by refining them. That integrated intelligence allows you to decide without drowning in guilt, to release what no longer serves without endless mourning, to recognize opportunity without the need for approval. One part of you sees potential, the other sees deception. One imagines what could be, the other calculates what it will cost. Together, they give you an awareness so sharp it feels prophetic to those still at war with themselves. Blend, they summoned your shadow to bring you down. You invited it into the cockpit. Now both of you are running the operation. They're still trapped in a mindset of opposition, light versus dark, while you've moved beyond that illusion entirely. You understand synthesis. You understand balance with teeth. You understand how to build with one hand extended and the other ready to defend. That twin was never evil. It was survival refined, will sharpened, identity preserved. And now that you've stopped exiling it and started partnering with it, you've become something they don't have language for. Not the hero they hope to use, not the villain they tried to create, but the integration of both. Light and shadow moving together, creating something entirely new, entirely sovereign, entirely unstoppable. They aimed for your downfall. You reached ascension, and all they can do now is watch as you and your integrated self dismantle every rule they thought was permanent and replace it with something that finally belongs to you.